Recently, during a live commentary watch of 2013's Man of Steel, Zack Snyder revealed that many DC fans will be getting what they've been asking from Warner Bros. For a long time: Zack Snyder's Justice League. For those of you who don't know, Zack Snyder, directed of the birth of the DC Extended Universe, Man of Steel, and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, left the production of 2017's Justice League due to personal reasons, which I will not discuss here. But the studio gave Joss Whedon, director of Marvel's The Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, the reins of Zack's vision for the film. And, well, you know how that turned out. After its release, Zack kept telling the fans stuff that was meant to be in the original film, but was cut, and then someone made a tweet with a hashtag, and then a storm, and then Comic-Con posters, and then billboards. People wanted to see how Zack Snyder's Man of Steel trilogy was meant to end, and now that's what we're going to get. Now, back in the 1970s, when a small filmmaker was going from studio to studio pitching his film, he wanted complete control over it. He wanted to make sure that his film wasn't going to be tampered with by the studio. That filmmaker is George Lucas, and because of his determination to tell the story he wanted to tell with no compromises from the studio, we were given Star Wars. When a storyteller has a vision for the movie they want to tell, and the studio interferes with it, it suffers. Take a look at the 1982 cult classic Blade Runner. The studio thought it confusing and too silent and atmospheric for audiences, so the studio dragged Harrison Ford in to do some god-awful voiceovers. Ford himself was against it, and purposely made them terrible in an attempt to not let them get into the final cut sent to theaters. His attempt failed, and years later, director Ridley Scott was allowed to make the director's cut, and then the final cut, both of which are his vision and not the studio's. And those two cuts are considered to be astronomically better than the theatrical cut, because of the lack of studio interference. A lot of people go to films because of the names attached, because of their voices. People watch Tarantino films because they like Tarantino. They see Spielberg films because they like Spielberg. And they see Scorsese films because they like his style. With the reveal of Zack Snyder's Justice League, I hope that this sets a precedent in the film industry. And this may all just be wishful thinking, but I feel that artistic liberty given to the filmmakers will be more prioritized than they have before. Since the fan got their wish, and Snyder can finally give the story he was going to tell from the beginning, I can only hope that the release of the Snyder Cut will tell Hollywood that its consumers want good stories, not cash grabs and filler content with no soul. Like his work or not, Zack Snyder cares about the stories he's telling, and puts so much effort into his movies, he puts soul into them, just like a vast majority of filmmakers out there, and they shouldn't have to compromise for the sake of their vision. What happened to Zack Snyder will never happen to, say, Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg. They have made their names in the industry very prominent, and they get to tell their story the way they want to tell it, with no compromises. Hell, when Scorsese was making The Irishman, it went to Netflix because they wanted something made by Scorsese on their platform. It didn't matter that it was nearly 4 hours long. This precedent will hopefully let upcoming filmmakers and less prominent directors have the creativity and the creative liberty to tell the stories they want to tell. Now, this is a call to action. If you, in one way or another, advocated for the Snyder Cut's release, you have to pay for it. No pirating. If Warner Bros. Doesn't see an uptick in subscribers to HBO Max, they won't ever do anything like this again. In fact, nothing like this will ever happen again. Warner Bros. Is putting $20 million back into Zack Snyder's vision. If this doesn't pay off for them, it can send a message throughout the industry that people do not want to see the creator's vision for their film. If this succeeds, more than the movement itself has, Zack Snyder's Justice League could set a precedent throughout the film industry that would prioritize the storyteller's creative vision rather than pander to the common denominator. No more Frankenstein monster films, with the studio ripping it to shreds just to try and tape it back together, just like what George Lucas was afraid of when making Star Wars. You asked for it, now you have to support the Snyder Cut for the good of the storytellers out there.